Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we'll be discussing the offseason recap for the San Antonio Spurs. If it's your first time here, what we do is we discuss the draft, free agency, and all the moves in between that the San Antonio Spurs did this offseason. In a few weeks, we will do our preview and predictions, so hit that subscribe button and help out the channel a ton. If you guys want to see more content like this, and go to hoopshype.com to check out my written work. Now, yes, this is a team that first season or off-season planning with Gregg Popovich not going to be on the sideline. Yes, he is a front office executive alongside lifelong friend R.C. Buford. However, they are going into this, Mitch Johnson being the full-fledged head coach. I actually got the chance to speak and meet Mitch Johnson over at the draft this past year. Really nice guy. Him and I are like the same height, by the way, as a young family. Good team that they're constructing right here, not being overzealous. And I've said it before, at this point, I thought that the San Antonio Spurs were going to take the Seattle Seahawks blueprint, that if you have a franchise quarterback like you do in a franchise cornerstone in Victor Wembanyama, like Russell Wilson was at the time, and he had a legion of boom, you go for it and try to win a championship while he's cheap. Hopefully they push the chips forward this year, and the players that they have with the mix of young guys and the young guys that they let walk, it seems that they are going in that direction. Now, time does need to pass before we can decide or see if that does come to fruition. So let me hear your thoughts in the comments section. It'll be greatly appreciated. What do you think of the Spurs offseason, and did they do enough to go ahead and push towards contention? Hopefully, Victor Wembanyama doesn't suffer any more setbacks moving forward. So this offseason, they definitely had to balance patience approach with their young guys that have talent while also feeling a bit of a sense of urgency. Victor Wembanyama is going to get a max contract. He's going to be a generational star. He's already showing it. They got De'Aaron Fox last year. They got Dylan Harper now. And they had the option this year that they could have gone out, got Kevin Durant, and accelerated this team into an immediate contender, or keep building it steadily and become a contender that way. The front office did the latter, the measured growth. They didn't want to mortgage the future, but they did want to add talent, and that's what they did. So not only did they get Dylan Harper, they got a great defender in Carter Bryant, which I don't know why I wrote overtime elite. I just have the wrong information right there, and just ignore that. But Carter Bryant out of Arizona and Dylan Harper out of Rutgers. David Jones-Garcia played for a bunch of schools. So Harper gives San Antonio another elite backcourt creator who's probably going to be better than Steph Castle, and he's just going to be this downhill. They just have so many downhill guys in De'Aaron Fox, Castle, and Harper. It's just they're just going to keep being bulls in a china shop, bull in a china shop. And when Fox's contract comes up, they'll have Dylan and Steph's contracts be coming up, so then they can move Fox as a trade chip and recoup some value that they gave up to get him. But that's awesome because now Bryant, Harper, Castle, Wembanyama are all on the same timeline, and this is a youth movement mixed with some vets around the star power that they have, allowing them to go ahead and really trace, contention. Yes, they lost Chris Paul to the Clippers. Mamu went to the Raptors. Blake Wesley and Malaki Branham were traded to the Wizards. Then Blake Wesley was released, and he's on the Portland Trailblazers. Second-round pick was sent there. Obviously, Gregg Popovich retired as a head coach and is in the front office. He's still around on the day-to-day things, but he's not going to be on the sideline. And yes, losing the veterans and some of their bench sucks, but it actually was done so they could clear out more minutes for Castle, more minutes for Harper, and more minutes for Fox to just have this unimpeded rotation where they're not really worrying about development anymore, but worrying more about winning games. And I think Gregg Popovich retiring really marks the new chapter in this organization, which we were all expecting to be the case at one point. I think bringing in Luke Kornet was a cheap, quality backup big who's not going to do too much. He's going to do what he needs to do, and he'll be a good committee, with Kelly Olynyk being more the offensive guy who can play alongside Victor Wembanyama, or Luke Kornet being the defensive rebounding who won't do too much, who can also play alongside Victor Wembanyama or relieve him. Now, Lindy Waters gives them a floor spacer who's going to do great stuff. Jordan McLaughlin's a great break-the-glass guy. Adam Flagler and Micah Potter could be competing for two ways, but they're more likely going to be guys who will go and play for the Austin Spurs. And if anything happens, they'll be brought up if they have to, sign someone with a disabled player exception, or they cut somebody and they want to promote them. But bringing in Kornet and Olynyk not only give them better in depth and spacing, rebounding, and some players, but also having Lindy Waters and the rest of the guys, they just bring in older guys who understand what they need to do, while also having the youth movement spearheaded with Harper, Bryant, Castle, and the rest of the company. I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to be the time that we see Jeremy Sochan end up being traded, but the expected starting lineup of Victor Wembanyama, Harrison Barnes, Devin Vassell, Stephen Castle, De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Carter Bryant, Keldon Johnson, another player that I wouldn't be surprised if they traded, Jeremy Sochan, Kelly Olynyk, Luke Kornet, Julian Champagnie, and Lindy Waters would make up the 13 guys that you would probably see this season. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dylan Harper gets some time, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dylan Harper and Carter Bryant, Lindy Waters, until they trade Keldon Johnson and Jeremy Sohan, get less minutes than we expect, with their main 10 guys probably going to be a combination of off the bench Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, Kelly Olynyk, Julian Champagnie, Luke Kornet, and depending on whoever's the starting shooting guard, which could be Castle, could also be Vassell and Keldon Johnson, then Castle and Harper come off the bench. There's ways that they could do this, but they got 3 driving guards in Fox, Harper, Castle that they can consistently rotate. They got defensive forwards and wings in Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, who I think is going to get traded, Julian Champagnie, Carter Bryant, and they have some size in Wemby, Kornet, Olynyk, and as well as Michael Porter if he stays on the roster. So I think the options that they have there are great, and it gives the team multiple looks that they really want. And the Spurs are at just under $180 million in salary. They're about $8 million under the luxury tax line. They have basically $13 million and $25 million between the first apron and the second apron, which gives them a lot of room to maneuver, not have to worry about doing salary cap gymnastics. And they have positioned themselves to be in the right situation to do a future trade, because they have the contracts to stack them up, also have the flexibility to take on some salary, and have the assets to sweeten a deal if need to be done. Now, we mentioned their two-way guys. They have guys that if they need to add mid-season depth, they're there. But they resisted the pressure to go out and spend money on a star or a guy like Kevin Durant. They kept Harper. They brought in Carter Bryant. They have a mix of defensive versatility, youth, while also having veterans as part of this model that gives them some stability, while also giving them continuity and a veteran presence to be men in the locker room. So they'll allow themselves to turn the page from the Popovich era and give Mitch Johnson a good core that is win now with the ability to continue to grow long term, while also recognizing that they need to be a playoff team as Wemby now approaches his prime, which is basically at the young age of like 21. So to me, what I see right here is Dylan Harper and Victor Wembanyama in 5 years is going to be the duo that defines the next decade in San Antonio. They are at basically a great position where they have a luxury of 3 downhill guards in Fox, Castle, and Harper, who are going to be able to attack defenses in waves, create open shooting opportunities for the shooters, and also allow Victor Wembanyama to be able to play his style of ball, while also not feeling overextended, as Kelly Olynyk and Kornet will do a good job, alleviating him and playing alongside him. So the Spurs, not only were they able to avoid having to put themselves in a position where they'll have to do salary cap gymnastics sooner rather than later, but also left room for a future big trade. So I think this team did a good job of roster management and understanding what they had to do in the moment. So yes, we're going to have to understand what's going to happen with Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, and Steph Castle, as if it doesn't work, one of them could get traded. And that might be Castle if there was somebody you have to choose, because Harper has a higher floor and Fox is a player who's going to contribute right now. Mitch Johnson needs to establish himself as a coach, either with an identity or show that he is the guy, or they're going to have to pivot quickly and find a different guy. Victor Wembanyama needs to stay healthy. I assume he's going to continue on that star trajectory or superstar trajectory that he was before the deep vein thrombosis. So this season, best case scenario, somehow brings a championship because the NBA is wide open, but it's likely to cement the core and the building blocks, compete for a play-in spot at the very least, but hopefully be able to compete for a playoff spot, so next year they can truly take that leap into being a title contender. So that's basically everything I have for you guys today. Hope you guys did enjoy today's video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If there was anything else you guys wanted to hear, tune back in a few weeks when we do the preview and predictions for the entire NBA season, which I think will be a fun video to do in itself. So nice, guys, but peace out.